Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have a new report by Bank of America's Mariana Perez, who analyzes Palantir, one of the main analysts that is analyzing Palantir. That made no sense to say analyst that's analyzing Palantir, but whatever, you get the point. Just put out a new report on Palantir. Not a new price target upgrade or anything like that. Still price target of 18 bucks. Current price of Palantir right now at 14.03. Let's actually go to it right here so you can see it here. Palantir had their latest conference about a week ago, where we got Karp speaking on CNBC and Fox Business News talking about what they're doing in the government space. Palantir right now at $14.05. Did drop below 14 today at $13.94, and I picked up 10 shares. This conference was really important because it's an inaugural kind of summit that Palantir is doing called S4G, Software for Government, where they're showing off their latest government products. Palantir 2 weeks ago announced PGWS, Palantir Government Web Services, kind of a play on Amazon Web Services, but for Palantir in the government space. And they announced a lot of new ways in which they're really going to begin to attack specifically AI-enabled government products that help the army, the military, every part of the government become more effective and better. We've known Palantir has been working in Ukraine for a while. Palantir obviously has a lot of ties to working with the West and protecting Western values. They set up a regional tech hub in Lithuania. They're working with the UK's Ministry of Defense. They got a deal with Babcock International, which is a defense military tech company in the UK. They had a new partnership with them. So there's a lot of stuff they're doing in the government. I thought this conference was really important because it showcased how deeply tied they are to the government. I mean, the people you had at this conference were probably generals, army members, people that used to sit on the boards of major defense companies, now attending Palantir's event. So let's read what Mariana had to say, and let's see what we can take away from some of the stuff she saw when she was invited to the conference. Last week, we attended Palantir's first Software for Government Summit in Washington, D.C. with 300 attendants across the public and private sectors. The event served as the symbolic kickoff of Palantir's new defense platform, PGWS. We walked away from the meeting encouraged about Palantir's opportunities as an enabler to the growing DoD modernization requirements, and we maintain our buy rating. So overall, what Mariana saw was good enough for her to feel that the government space will grow for Palantir. DoD remains robust with few alternatives available. Our main takeaway is that the demand with the Department of Defense for Palantir's offerings appears stronger than most outsiders comprehend. After speaking with DoD users across the branches, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, etc., the military is broadly impressed. So impressed that while offering is somewhat expensive and becoming more expensive, they are willing to pay the higher cost. That's a really unique insight to be able to get from someone at the conference who actually spoke to the people using the product. One Air Force colonel even indicated that he would go to bat if funding for the service were ever to be cut. That's interesting as well. I mean, to have an Air Force colonel be like, no, I would really put up a fight if we didn't have funding for these types of products means you probably have product market fit. You obviously have a sticky product that your users want. Additionally, it appears as though there are few, if any, competitors that are offering comparable capabilities. Users indicated that competing capabilities are exaggerated. Those would be more of the things in the private sector or even some public sector, competition. When people are like, Snowflake's going to eat Palantir's lunch in the government space, it's like, all right, I guess, maybe. Potential to benefit from stovepiped DoD. The lack of interoperability within the DoD was a recurring theme. The term stovepipe was used frequently to describe the state of interbranch operations. With that being said, creating avenues to foster interoperability between the branches in the Pentagon, commonly referred to a joint old domain command control, JDAC2, remains a top priority. In our view, Palantir has the opportunity to capture significant market share and exploit the near-term disaggregated nature of the U.S. military, which makes a lot of sense. This idea of interoperability has been very big with Palantir for a long time. The whole point of an ontology within your business is to connect every layer of the business and make it interoperable so that you can communicate throughout the entirety of the enterprise. So with the government, and all the bureaucracy and inefficiencies that exist within the government, Palantir software being able to solve that stuff definitely seems like it makes a lot of sense. Palantir can provide software for the similar use cases across similar but unaligned customers. There seems to be upside in the near term under existing contracts such as Project Bound and Heron. In the long term, the DoD becomes more serious about JDAC2. Palantir will have the opportunity to provide its services in connecting the branches and their data networks. And that right there, I think, is where a lot of the big money is going to come from. Really, this is going to be data ingestion contracts of connecting one service in one subsidiary in one agency of the government to another one by making sure there is a data pipeline that is built out and everything goes smoothly. I mean, that I think can be worth a lot of money for Palantir, and it's probably not going to happen overnight. It will probably take years for those contracts to materialize, but when they do, that's going to be sticky revenue and that's going to be high margin revenue. Use cases abound from nuclear security to replicators. The potential applications of Palantir's AI technology continues to grow. At the summit, a number of speakers discussed near-term use cases, including nuclear security and connecting drones across a broader ecosystem, as will be expected through the USAF's newly announced replicator program. Palantir already has a $90 million contract working with the NNSA, which is the Nuclear Security Administration, and they are responsible for making sure the nuclear codes don't run amok, so that's something that Palantir has already embedded themselves in as well. Another point from Mariana. The DoD has their own solutions, but they only go so far. The Department of Defense has developed homegrown capabilities to tackle the lack of interoperability and data sharing. However, these solutions only go so far in solving the problem. For instance, the department developed Advana, a platform combining data and analytics from roughly 1,200 systems across the DoD network. The platform now has 80,000 users across the DoD. However, the platform is less user-friendly and more labor-intensive than alternatives like Palantir's products. Utilizing Advana requires the work of data scientists to integrate further data into the system. This is a tall order for the DoD, given that the department does not have the purse to attract the top talent in the data science field. And that makes sense. I mean, Google can pay a lot more than the DoD. Additionally, positional rotations often inhibit any one person from becoming acquainted enough to extract significant value from the platform. Many of the users we spoke to noted that Palantir provides the data labor force to do so much of the heavy lifting and integrating the company's solutions. So I've heard of Advana as well, and it has ties to Databricks. I don't know if Databricks is the creator of the platform or Databricks helps power the platform, but it is a big platform that the DoD uses. I guess what Mariana is saying is that when we talk to people, there's two major issues. Number one, you're not going to have the talent to attract the best data scientists to be able to continuously work on the problem, and there's going to be high churn. And number two, you don't need data scientists when you're working with Palantir's products, right? Like, you can have regular people work with it because the platform itself does the heavy lifting of ingesting all the data, which is kind of the core value proposition to get the intelligence from it, versus having a data scientist know exactly what to do with the data. And I think that is a very big differentiating issue, because you don't want to hire like $700,000 engineers or data scientists just to be able to do this stuff. You want regular people to be able to do this and be able to work with it very easily. She then goes on into talking about what PGWS is. I did a video on that, so I don't want to go through that right here, but this last point is what I want to focus on for what she said. And I'll put the video for when I covered the entire new suite of products in the description if you want to check out Palantir Government Web Services. She says, defense is one of the strongest adopters of AI tech so far. According to tech industry participants, defense users have become some of the strongest adopters of AI technology. One company even admitted that defense users have inadvertently become the largest share of its consumer base. That's interesting. Unlike AI usage in other industries, AI use in defense applications is actually mission critical and is actively being incorporated into core missions. While healthcare tech and insurance tech have discussed integrating AI, these consumers generally tend to pivot too frequently between use cases, not offering enough time to build and refine very viable databases and models. Getting to that level requires heavy data pools that are constantly growing and need to be labeled and don't take the time to collect the data and refine models to the point of efficacy. What Mariana is making here is a really, really good point that we've been talking about a lot on the channel. Venture capital spending into private companies for the defense space is at the tune of $30 to $34 billion. And so far this year in June, it was at $17 billion already. That means billions of dollars going into defense tech startups, which, what is the main technology they're focusing on? AI. How to incorporate AI to operationalize all the workflows that happen in the United States government. Palantir came out with a product called FedStart that says, hey, all of you guys need to be able to sell to the government. You can't sell to the government if you don't have accreditation. We have accreditation. We have IA level 6. So there is no reason why you can't use us, and we can kind of containerize your product, and now you have the ability to sell. On top of that, they announced Apollo services for the government, or an upgrade to that. They announced Ontology SDKs, which are basically using APIs and creating modular versions of what Foundry is, which is an ontology of all your data within certain subsectors of the DoD. There's a lot of new stuff they're introducing for the government. Why does this matter? And why does Mariana pointing this out? Because if defense has been the most operational if defense has been the most operationally efficient when it comes to AI, especially in the context of actually implementing things in mission critical situations, which is the core use case of AI. At the end of the day, a lot of these products around AI are commodities. They will be commoditized by big tech companies, but the stuff that actually matters are the models, the proprietary data they're trained on, and the ability for them to connect to actually have a purpose in the enterprise, which is what I think the bull case is for Palantir's AIP. That's happening in defense right now. And it's happening at a vast speed in a lot of ways. And, one of the core reasons is because we've got some geopolitical tensions going on with Russia and China. Just today, there was a note pointed out. Let me actually share this right here, because I think this is important to make the point that the CIA has begun, because of the fears around China, building an AI tool. You can see this right here. in rivalry with China to help the US spy agencies sift through vast amounts of data. Now, I'm not saying that's Palantir, but it kind of sounds like that's Palantir, and I'm not going to speculate if it's Palantir or not. But the idea that the government does not recognize that AI is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity to be able to take advantage over and truly make your government more modern, and not only once in a generation, but if you don't do it now, you might not be here in a generation if your adversaries take more advantage of it and they have not the best intentions to be able to do with it. I think everyone recognized, and Karp has been hounding the horn on this, that we really need to pay attention to how software can give our military, our army, and our overall defense budgets larger opportunities to protect ourselves against something like a Russia invading Ukraine. Because if Russia gets excited that they invaded Ukraine and they somehow succeed, then you got China, Taiwan, you got Russia going to the Baltic states like Poland and Lithuania. It's not fear-mongering either. Like, this is real. It would be fear-mongering if there hadn't been an invasion since 2014, and you would be like, oh, well, we need to protect ourselves in case Russia or China invade. Like, yeah, that's fear-mongering. Russia actually did it, and they gave a lot of credence to China thinking, hey, maybe we can do it as well. And so if defense tech and the money going into defense tech is becoming big, I think that is a massive bull case for Palantir, just in the context of them being able to capitalize on a lot of that money and capitalize on it for the right reasons, because in a less deglobalized world, you want to make sure that you're more safe. Then on top of that, you got governments in general that want to modernize. I mean, we heard the IRS is using Palantir, and it's like, well, the IRS is pretty inefficient when it comes to cracking down on taxes and collecting all that stuff. And if they could use Palantir to become more efficient, that's important. There's just so many different use cases that exist in the government space. Government revenue has been declining for Palantir. It's not been amazing. Last quarter, it was $300 million out of 533, and the commercial was 233. They did 533 in total. Commercial is growing, though, really nicely. Especially U.S. commercial at around 33%, whereas government is kind of flat. I mean, it's growing, but it's just not. International government is definitely not growing as well. U.S. government is growing a little bit better. That needs to change eventually for the bull case for Palantir to also play out, because the beautiful thing about the government revenue is that it's sticky, and I think Mariana recognizes that. A lot of analysts that think of Palantir kind of as a defense contractor / commercial company are like, okay, so the commercial stuff is a cherry on top, and if that scales, that's like crazy, but all this government spending, these billions of dollars that need to be spent on operationalizing everything across the entire Western world, every single NATO country, and think of all the different government subsidiaries and agencies in every single NATO country could be using Palantir. I mean, for goodness sakes, in a couple of days, I think we're going to find out if we get the NHS deal for Palantir, which is another $611 million going into Palantir top line revenue from the UK government to modernize their healthcare system. So there's a lot of opportunity in the government space. I think Mariana recognizes that, and it seems like when she went to the conference and got an understanding by talking to the actual people using this stuff and how they said, look, if you take away this stuff, we're going to be really upset. I think it's enhancing her view of why Palantir actually has a moat in the government space and why their products are sticky enough to probably expand, scale, and permeate throughout a lot more agencies within the government. Those are my thoughts. Brand new report on Palantir in the government space. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one.